Hey, what's up, Knife Tube? Y'all are gonna sharpen with me today. Rikon 400 800 CBN plate. Some old 4116 Krupp steel. Let's do it. This edge has been beat to hell and back. It is definitely time for a sharpening. I mean, it'll still cut you, but actually we're going to cut that edge off. Going to get rid of that well-fatigued steel. We are totally butter knife dull. I need to grind this I can't think. Bolster. Hell, what do you call this thing? I forgot. Yeah, bolster. Anyways, need to grind it, but it ain't too bad. It'll work. Need to grind it down. I'll do it later. So, 400, 800. We're going to go on the 400 side. CBN. Very CBN rich stone. So even at 400, it's going to cut this 416 really quickly. Of course, this steel is probably only at like 58 or 57, maybe 56 Rockwell. It's quite soft. This knife gets used for like hacking, so I'm going to run it at probably about 18. Let's do it. Really just trying to get this plate broken in more than anything. I'll tell you what, these are some flat plates, buddy. Already got a burr. There's your 400 scratch pattern. Nice and consistent. It's a really good plate. Plate has a lot of bite because of how CBN rich it is. Definitely nothing wrong with this stone. This is a good plate. At that point, got that point Nice and sticky. Gotta remove some more metal. Okay. You know what? Let's see how this plate acts with water. Remember, if you're a newbie sharpener, if you're just getting into it, do not do what I'm doing. Speed comes with time and experience. Don't try to go fast. Going fast will hurt you more than it helps you. Speed comes with time. There's not no way around it. If you want to do a good job and you want to do it fast, the only way that that'll ever happen is with time and experience. Do not try to go fast. There's literally no way around it. Speed comes with time. That's just the way it is. There's nothing you can do about it. If you try to go fast and you don't have the time spent to develop the skill, you're just going to hurt yourself by teaching yourself bad habits. I'm having to remove some steel off this side. Holy cow. There we go. Okay, almost, not quite. There we go. Okay, give me 1 sec. Let me wash the stone off. There's your 400. Nice and aggressive. I think this plate actually likes water a little better than it does, or the blend, than it does just straight cleaner. I can't stress it enough. If you're just learning, you're in the process of learning, don't try to go fast. It will hurt you more than it helps you. Trying to go fast to start, you're going to develop bad habits that are going to be a nightmare to try to get rid of later. These are some of the most flat diamond or CBN plates I have ever used. Like, it's actually crazy how flat they are. I can tell by the way they feel.
It's 1 p.m.
Get off the repeater. Okay. There's your 800. Gonna be nice and aggressive. Very king. It's gonna be a really good cooking edge right here. Plate's not broken in yet, so I'm trying to get it completely broken in. I'm not really doing anything right now except trying to get this plate broken in. I'm going to go back and fix my scratch pattern in a second. Like, I can feel little spots where the plate's not broken in. Trying to get those taken care of. I really don't like to sharpen super soft steels on plates like this. This plate is, this steel is too soft for, you know, these type of abrasives. It'll work, but it's not, I don't really like it. I don't like the feel. I don't like the way that the steel just digs into the abrasive. But this ain't really about sharpening this knife. This is about getting this stone broken in, because I know this is going to be a really good plate. We're going to start refining that burr down. Getting very light. Okay. There's your scratch pattern. You see, when you do a good job you should have a tip that looks like that. Feels pretty good as far as burr being gone. I'm gonna make a few passes on, and we're gonna go 3 micron. We're gonna go exactly at sharpening angle. And she be kicking. Oh yeah, that's a good edge. Lots of bite, very keen. Man, that's a good edge. That's going to be a nice meat cutting edge right there. I really love it when you get a nice keen edge that also has a ton of bite. I don't like knives. I don't like edges that are very keen but no bite. Like a straight razor type edge, you know, super sharp but slick. I don't like edges like that. I don't like the way they cut. You know, if you glass an edge out by taking it to too high of a grit on a steel that doesn't like to be ran high at a high grit like that, they just cut so poorly. Like if I was to finish this knife at say 16, like on my 16,000 grit Sharpening glass or 30,000 grit Sharpening glass, say I was to finish this edge on the 30K and give it to you to cut a fillet up or a deer backstrap, and then I let you do half of it like that, and then I come over and did a sharpening and I finished it on this 800 and give it back to you to cut it 100%. You would like the way the knife cut off the 800 versus that 30K. Now, if you're cutting tomatoes or, you know, zucchini, squash, etc., carrots, you know, yeah, you may enjoy the way that 30K push cuts better, but on this thick geometry, it would matter anyways. But you may like the way that could cut a little smoother, you know, through your push cuts. But if you're cutting meat or you're cutting tougher vegetables, man, don't forget about those high grit edges. It's I'll tell you this, it's something that all sharpeners who really get into the hobby, I'm gonna give y'all a talk for a minute. It's something that all sharpeners that really get into it go through. Every single one does it. If you really get into the hobby or you get into it professionally, you will go through this. It's just a trait of sharpeners. When you first start sharpening, the first thing you want to do, you want to get to that high grit, the highest grit you can. And then once you start getting, a little, decent, all you want to do is make mirror edges. And you're striving for that really perfect mirror. And you'll be stuck on that for a while. And once you start being able to do really beautiful, real perfect mirror edges, you'll be stuck on that. And that's all you'll want to do. I don't care if it's a piece of 3CR. If you got it and it needs an edge, it's going to get a mirror. And you're going to, a lot of sharpeners, they get hung up and they stay on that mirrored edge thing, and for a long time, that becomes their trait, and that's all they want to do for a year, 2, 3 years. And then, they use the knives and they start realizing that, hey, I don't really like the way these mirrors cut. I don't like, you try to cut a zip tie and it slips. Or, you go to cut something and it doesn't dig in, it just kind of slides and cuts. And, like myself, I nowadays it's pretty easy for somebody to be able to, they spend a little bit of money, buy a fixed angle and a nice set of stones, and they can do a mirror no problem. You could literally, your first sharpening, you could do a mirror. I come from back in the day when it wasn't that easy to get super high polish like that. Now, I did go through that phase a little bit too, but differently. I had already had a lot of experience and was a very good sharpener before I ever started messing with trying to get mirrored edges. And I had already, I had already realized that, hey, I like the way these edges cut. Once I started doing mirrors, I really don't like the way these mirrors cut that much, unless I'm just push cutting. So I didn't go through a long phase of mirror and only wanting to do mirrored edges. Now I did have the phase, but not for the typical 1 to 3 years that you see most sharpeners go through. I probably 10, 15, 20 knives, and I was like, hey, you know what? I only like mirrors on certain knives for certain tasks, and past that, I really don't like them. And then and nowadays, I'm in it to where it's more along the lines of, it all depends on what the steel wants. If the steel wants a mirror, it gets a mirror. If the steel wants a 220 grit tooth monster, then it gets a 220 grit tooth monster. And if it wants just a good old classic 600 grit, that's what it gets. I let the steel tell me what it wants and the planned use for the knife. So, that's how I do it. I'm not against mirrors. It just depends. Depends on the knife. Depends on the use of the knife. Depends on the steel and the use of the steel. Also, geometry gets factored into that equation too. But I'm rambling now, I'm sorry. You can always tell your more inexperienced sharpeners when every edge you see them do is either a high polish or a mirror. Almost a mirror or a mirror. You won't see them do more aggressive lower grit edges. That when you see that tells you that they're in that kind of mirror everything, high grit everything stage. And all sharpeners, you could go read on Reddit, read sharpener stories, and every one of them, it's the same thing. Exactly what I just explained. They started out this, all they wanted was a mirror. Then once they could get that mirror, all they wanted to do was mirrors. And then after a year, 2 years, 3 years, hey, I really don't like these mirrors that much. What grit cuts best for what steel? Let's start doing that. And that's the progression. Be it kitchen knives, EDC knives, both, doesn't matter. That's kind of the sharpener's progression, and like I said, anybody who gets into it seriously will go through it. Um, you know, I'm not exaggerating when I say I see people taking Walmart 3CR Kershaw and running it up to 16, 30,000 grit, and then stropping it down to, 1/100th of a micron. Like, totally silly. Makes no sense whatsoever. But that's what they do. Or they got a piece like a piece of S110D, a steel that you should never take to even remotely a high grit. And guess what? They'll have a Veneve F1200, F1500, or something like that, 6, even 12K edge on S110D, and then again strop down to a 10th or 100th of a micron, to a full bright mirror. And guess what? That S110D is going to perform like shit. Literally. Like, you totally wasted that edge. But that's what you see. It's common. It's kind of part of sharpening. Part of the journey. Go on Reddit, go to the sharpening forums, and you'll see it. Like, you can literally watch it. You can watch the sharpeners' progressions. Just go scroll through their pages, and you'll see it. Dadgummit. Anyways, so yep, you see good sharp edge, plus me running my mouth, rambling. Rikon 3x8 CBN 400 800, fantastic plate. Can't wait to get this thing fully broken in. That's going to be a really good plate. I'll put the link in the comments. Also, keep in mind, I should say this at the beginning of the video, but I'm an idiot and I don't, and it's why I'm not getting no freaking subscribers. At 1,000, I'm giving away a brand spanking new Spyderco Sage 5 Lightweight and CPMS 30V. Absolutely fantastic EDC, one of the best EDC work knives you can buy. The Sage 5 is a classic for a reason. Somebody's going to get a brand spanking new one, and I think that's a pretty damn nice giveaway for a first giveaway. So help me get to 1,000. Somebody's going to get on a Sage 5. Alright guys, I hope y'all learned something by watching. I hope you learned something by listening. Mainly try to avoid going through that cycle of putting a mirror on everything. All you're doing in a lot of cases is just wasting steel, because once you get out of that stage, you won't do very many mirrors at all, just because they don't perform that good in most cases. Again, depending on steel, depending on use, depending on geometry, etc. But yeah, Rikon 400 800 CBN, hell of a good plate. Definitely not cheap, but this is going to far outlast your typical diamond, high quality diamond plates. It's going to stay aggressive for much longer. This is a good plate. You should get you one if you really want to have a mild reprofiling grit, and a grit that you can finish on for very coarse edges, and an 800 that's going to leave you nice refined edges. Kind of a one and done type plate. You can reprofile and finish on this and have a really super toothy edge or a pretty fine edge. Awesome one and done type deal. I have no doubt you will like this plate if you get it. Alright guys, laters.